Welcome. My name is Jason Schultz from Five Tails Digital Marketing. Just want to say a quick thanks to Luke from Marketing Broker for inviting Five Tails, inviting myself to be able to speak with you today. And I know it's going to be a bit different. We're not I'm not on a stage presenting to you, so we'll sort of have to stick to the confines, make sure my hands aren't too far outside of the screen here as I'm talking to you. But amidst, the situation we're obviously in with COVID-19 at the moment, not just from a health perspective, but also from the probably more wide-reaching for the business community from an economic perspective, one of the positives that's going to really come of this and that you're really experiencing today is, I'm not on a stage speaking, so, you're not having to furiously take down notes knowing that you're not going to be able to watch this very easily later, or, you're not really going to be able to have your computer, you're sort of resting it on your lap while also trying to pay attention. Is that you're going to be able to replay this, and you're also going to be able to sit there right on your laptop, potentially even on one screen, have this running, and then on the other screen, you can even be actually running through some of the things that we're actually going to go through this in this presentation, so that you really can apply what we're actually running through. So it's going to be a lot more practical, and hopefully that also makes it a lot more engaging for you as well, because you're really going to be able to see, what we're talking about, and then how we're actually going to be able to apply that. So look, sit back or lean forward, get right involved in this, and settle in, because we are going to go through a number of things within this presentation. So diving right in, what I want to talk to you about today is getting the return on investment, the ROI for your SEO, and leveraging LinkedIn in that process. So obviously Google has about I think it's a 97% market share within Australia. It's the predominant search engine. It's where people default to go to when they're looking for things. However, LinkedIn obviously has its own search function as well. I don't just want to talk to you about how you can actually optimize your LinkedIn profile in terms of appearing within those search functions and how keyword research really looks, but also how you can really leverage LinkedIn within your organic search results as well in order to get better results from Google using LinkedIn. So in terms of who we are, just so you've got some background as to who I am, I'm one of three brothers who owns a marketing agency called Five Tails. We're very much a results-focused digital marketing agency. We're established in 2014, middle of 2014. One of my brothers and I just recently sold a retail business we used to own. We absolutely loved marketing. It's definitely what we were passionate about. And over the last couple of years, we really developed a specialization, not just through marketing, but through the previous experience we've had. And we've developed a specialization in a number of sort of verticals within the marketing industry. But most specifically, probably what we're most highly regarded for is our skills around SEO and our skills around Google. We've got a fantastic team. You can see some of the team members at the bottom of the screen now. We've got a fantastic team, got a presence across Australia. Long before COVID-19, we became a remote business. We've still got an office presence in Brisbane and Adelaide, and a very small office in Sydney and Auckland as well. But for the most part, we've been a remote business for 3 of the last 6 years. And I'm no expert at all when it comes to COVID-19. Obviously, haven't been through this before. Been through ups and downs with both with clients and with our own businesses, but absolutely no expert when it comes to COVID-19. So I'm not really don't really want to touch too heavily on anything particular, because a lot of things are industry specific in terms of the impact, and some of them are even business specific. So there really are things that, from a strategic perspective, you've obviously got to be really close to your own business in order to be evaluating that. Something that you should really be talking about, obviously, is if you're a solo operator, obviously something talking about business coaches, talking about business groups that are really going to understand the nuances of your business, because that's really where you're going to be able to figure out the strategies as to what you need to be doing in order to really get through this in a way that's going to set you up to really succeed on the other side of things. Obviously, I'll talk to SEO and how that sort of relates to where we are right now. Now, in terms of, so you've got some idea of what SEO is really capable of. For a lot of people, you're going to have heard that, they've tried SEO, or they know someone who's tried SEO, and does it really actually produce results? Does it really, they've heard it's fantastic, but there's so many people out there. It's an unprofessional industry. It's not like accounting. It's not like, trades, where there's actually a professional body that accredits people who are good at this. Anyone can set up shop and call themselves an SEO professional, like they can within a lot of marketing industries, which, makes it a very low barrier to entry, but at the same time makes, from the outside perspective, very hard for people to understand, like, how is it that, what makes someone good, what makes someone not good? And just because a lot of people can do it on a very small scale very well, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to do it on a large scale well. As a result, a lot of people have very mixed results. This is a business that also an owner of. This is a cleaning company serving Australia-wide. You can see here that big red box on the screen there. It gets what would the equivalent would be if you were paying Google for Google Ads traffic. Every single month it gets this free from SEO. It gets $30,000, $29,900 of traffic organically from Google. That doesn't even count anything that it's getting within the local map results. This is purely the results, and I'll show you shortly so that you can distinguish this for yourself. This is purely just SEO value that it's actually getting. So that's the marketing, would be the equivalent of a marketing budget of $360,000. And if it ceased any expenses that it pays for SEO next month, it would still continue to get that level of traffic until the competition obviously caught up or the algorithm changed. So that's sort of why the power of it's so good, and you can even see that sort of translating. You can see here there's 8,000 visitors a month, the organic traffic number there. It's getting about 8.2 thousand visitors a month, people searching via Google and finding this particular business. And you can even see here's another screenshot just out of Google Analytics. There's 9,000 people, this is from, I think this is the month of February, 9,000 people there coming from organic search. Obviously, it's built up a bit, this business is built up over the last couple of years as well to get a lot of people searching for it directly, but half the traffic's coming from SEO, which is the organic search number there. So don't want to spend much longer on that, but just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of what it is we really do and who we really are and who I am as well. So you had some understanding of who's on the other end here because, it is a bit less personal. Looking at me or talking to you, via the computer, rather than speaking with you in person. So in terms of what we're going to cover, not going to go through all this right now, but we are going to have a look very briefly at the difference between, or what actually appears when you're searching, and what some of the differences are between those things that appear when you are searching, which is local SEO versus organic, or maps versus organic search, and then having a look at LinkedIn search as well. Then we're going to just show some, I'll show you some quick and sort of very rapid fire ways of optimizing a page, and that really will be quite rapid fire ways of optimizing a page. But, if nothing else, and if you're doing it yourself, which, for a lot of people, they might be doing it themselves, particularly during this time period, that's going to get you a long way already. Then we've got why keywords on LinkedIn are really different than keywords on Google search. Then we're going to have a bit of a look at how to actually use your keywords on LinkedIn, how to actually rank your LinkedIn profile on Google, or how you can potentially rank your LinkedIn profile on Google. Then we're going to have a look at how to actually optimize your Google My Business. And we won't go through all of the detail within that, but what we are going to go through is those main factors you can do, sort of that 80-20 principle. We're going to go through the 20% of things that are going to make the largest amount of difference. And then we're going to have a look at finding really blog topics that are actually help your SEO. Obviously, during this time, you want to be investing your time where you do have it in things that are evergreen, things that are going to produce results when your niche sort of returns, or when business returns more for you and sentiment returns from consumers and customers. Blogging is one of those things that's a really high level, high return on your investment right now. But provided you're doing some things right and it actually contributes to your SEO and not just writing something that's going to have no benefit to SEO. And then also sharing blogs on LinkedIn without really killing your organic reach. Once you are writing blogs, you are sharing it on LinkedIn, don't want to just kill the organic reach of your posts. So first off, going to have a look at local SEO versus organic SEO versus LinkedIn search. So we're going to actually jump across to the search engine results page, and I'll sort of detail through a few things there. You can see what I brought up here is the search term plumbers Sunshine Coast, and this is the Google search engine results page. So there's 3 types of results that are typically going to appear unless you're an e-commerce store, when you're typically going to get 4 types of results. You're also going to get shopping results. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to run through the 3 types of main results. So the 3 types of results are Google Ads, Google Maps, if you follow my mouse here, and organic or more traditional SEO results below. So you can see this term here, Plumbers Sunshine Coast. It's a pretty competitive term, 1,300 searches a month as far as a Sunshine Coast related term goes. And the main differences between is what I really wanted to discuss between Google Ads, between local search, and between organic search or SEO. It's a really important distinction to really understand as far as your own business goes, because making the distinction between which one of these search strategies you're really going to pursue and understanding why you're going to pursue them or why it might be being recommended to you is very, very important. So Google Ads, the real advantage with Google Ads is just how fast they are, and that they're like a tap in that you can really turn them on and turn them off. So for example, if you're a dental practice, you're bringing on a new consultant, you've had a Google Ads campaign that's been running effectively, at some stage in the last year, but you're not necessarily running it now. You've brought on a new consultant, you might want to turn on your Google Ads, generate inquiries for that particular type of service that you run your Google Ads for, because you can be very, very specific and granular in terms of what you're targeting, and then turn those off again when you no longer need them. So it can be very efficient from a cost perspective in that regard, in that you're not spending a large chunk of investment for something that may or may not be useful for you. You've got a very good idea of how useful it is. The challenge with Google Ads, though, really can be the cost on a regular basis when compared to other marketing channels that have similar, that prospects have similar intent. So for example, like SEO, it is quite an expensive channel compared to SEO. You can see here for Plum of Sunshine Coast, the average cost per click, and this is a bit rough, but you can see with your following mouse here, about $16 for someone to click on one of the ads here. So I click on here, it's going to cost roughly about $16, probably a bit more because they're on the top of the page here, whereas if I was clicking someone here, they're probably not paying as much, so they might be paying about $12 or $13 or something, but quite expensive as far as Google Ads go. In terms of timeframes, though, you probably are looking, as much as people say it's going to be instant for Google Ads, you're probably looking at about 1 to 3 months to really have a campaign actually dialed in that's going to be producing results. And unless you're working with someone who's run a very similar campaign to what you're trying to run, then they're already going to know what type of ads and what type of bidding strategy, etc., is actually going to work in order to generate results. The last main benefit of Google Ads is the level of granularity of measurement. For SEO, you're not necessarily going to know that this search term that you target for SEO translates into this inquiry for you. You're not going to have that level of understanding. What you are going to do with Google Ads, though, is you're actually going to know that because you can track calls and you can track form inquiries, and that's exactly what you should be doing with Google Ads. You never should be doing it without actually fully tracking what you're doing. You can then go, this is the search term that resulted, and this is the search term, this is the ad that generated this inquiry, therefore I need to do more of this and less of something else. So really something that costs $16 per click may actually be very profitable for you, because you might convert 1 in every 4 clicks into a customer, and you know what your pricing's like and your profit margins are like. So it actually could be very effective versus something that might only cost $1 per click, but the intent that the person has with the types in that search term is so low that they're very unlikely, and only 1 in 200 people is going to convert on that search term. So in actual fact, it's a very unprofitable search term, despite the fact the cost per click is really low. So you are flying absolutely blind if you're not tracking your Google Ads and not tracking your calls and not tracking your form inquiries that come from it. But that's why Google Ads can be quite powerful. As I mentioned, downside cost, and downside is really when you do turn it off, you're not actually investing in something in the future because it's not an asset you're actually building. It's just advertising you turn on and off. So next one here is Google Maps results. These are also called local SEO. This is also called the 3-pack. This is really powerful for a very limited geographical area. You're not going to be able to have just one location on the Sunshine Coast and target and reach everyone who's searching for a plumber on the Sunshine Coast, for example. And it's also very geographically, the geographical location of where your Google My Business is. And if you don't have a Google My Business, head to business.google.com and definitely register and sign up your business for a Google My Business, because this can be a very powerful way to generate inquiries and particularly to generate phone calls for your business. But you're not going to, it really is very dependent on where you're located. If the searcher is searching in Mooloolaba in this example here, and your business is located in Noosa, but you might actually serve Mooloolaba, the chances of you appearing is very slim compared to someone who's actually located within Mooloolaba, even if you're not showing your address on Google. And you can see here, not one of these plumbers is showing his address on Google, yet it doesn't really matter. Google still uses their address as far as their algorithm goes to calculate whether they're the most relevant person for someone who's searching. So with that said, the restriction being that you can only serve typically a very limited geographical area. But with that said, the advantages of local maps is often the algorithm moves a lot faster. If you're a new business, you're typically not held back here, whereas a new website is going to be much more difficult and more time consuming and resource intensive to rank down the bottom here, whereas in the maps, it's far less time consuming in order to rank within here. Google's algorithm does move a lot faster, so you might be able to rank within the maps or see significant movement within your Google My Business ranking on the maps within 1 to 3 months. You may not be waiting 1 year to rank or 6 months to rank here. So there is far less competition in the maps than there is in the local search results. And you can see that even with the first search result here. These organic search results here, you can see localsearch.com.au. They can't appear within the maps because they don't actually physically have a location on the Sunshine Coast. They cannot verify their GMV. So it's a much more level playing field with large brands in here. Quite often you are competing with smaller businesses in here than you're going to be competing in the organic results. You're not going to compete against OneFlare, Service Seeking, High Pages, Local Search, Yellow Pages. None of those people are going to be able to compete within local maps here. So you're often competing against people with less sophisticated marketing, and therefore it's typically going to be easier to achieve results within here. The downside is, again, that geographical restriction. Other thing to keep in mind as well, the reason why Google Maps or Google Local SEO can generate a lot of phone calls, if you do the same search on your mobile phone, you can easily do that right now, you're going to actually see that rather than the website button here, it's going to have a button to click and just call the business directly. So as you can imagine, the difference between someone just clicking on a desktop to go to a website and then browsing and figuring out, do I want to get in touch with this business, versus someone who clicks and calls directly from their mobile, the value of that visitor of a phone call is significantly higher than the value of a visitor. So it is very powerful getting within the map results here. You can advertise within the maps here as well, it's worth noting. However, it's not a very certain approach. You can't actually choose your business to appear in the maps here. You can just be eligible to list within the maps here as far as advertising in these maps go. So with that said, last one here is organic search, or the traditional SEO results down below, what you're seeing here. Now, as you can see, this is a fair way down the page these days. So for most niches, you're going to want to be in the top 3 positions. There's no such thing really anymore as being on the first page of Google. Like it's great being on the first page. Only about 2% of people scroll past the first page. It's a statistic you would have heard all the time. However, these days, you really do need to be in those top 3, sometimes in a niche top 5 positions, but typically top 3 positions within the Google search results, depends on the niche, in order to actually be receiving any sort of material amount of visitors that is actually going to help your business generate more inquiries, generate more sales. So when you do hear about getting on the first page, it's not really about getting on the first page, it's really about getting in the top 3 to 5 results on the first page in order to actually get results. The really big advantage of SEO here versus SEO within the local maps is that you can rank for a much wider variety of search terms because you can build your website out in a way that you're able to rank for a lot of search terms here. You can't do that in the same way within local maps. You're not going to be able to rank for, plumber Sunshine Coast and electrician Sunshine Coast, for example, using the same Google My Business. You can definitely do that using the same website in the results here. And local search is a great example of someone that does just that. OneFlare is another great example of someone that does just that. So that's sort of the differences between the three main ways that people actually search on Google, and that's why it's really important to understand, what it is that you're actually trying to do when it comes to SEO and where your advantage might be. If it's particularly weak with your competition here, and you're located near where your customers are located, local SEO is going to be where you want to really be focusing your time and energy. And we're going to go through a few tips and tricks for doing some quick wins there. Whereas if you're not, you're going to really need to be located here. And if you do have the budget for it and you need leads straight away and inquiries straight away, you know that ads is really where you want to turn to. Obviously, the larger your business gets, the more you're going to, of course, be exhausting all your options possible as far as your marketing goes, and you probably are going to be doing all 3. However, you'll have those much more finely tuned so that they are returning a positive return on what you're actually investing in those marketing channels. The lowest cost, or what can potentially be the lowest cost in the long run, is organic search, because you can invest a smaller amount on a monthly basis into organic search and then in time yield very strong results, provided obviously that you've got a pretty strong relationship or strong level of trust or strong level of confidence that investment is going to yield results in time. So you can use this little comparison table just to sort of summarize or take away so that you've got a nice neat summary of when you are trying to refer back and determine what it is for this business, or whether it's marketing that you're returning to at a future point. This is a nice little snapshot that just sort of summarizes the main elements of those 3 different main types of search and how, what you really might be looking at as far as how you size up what your opportunity is for marketing your own business. Now, the next thing I want to touch on is just have a look at LinkedIn and how LinkedIn's search function really differs from Google's search function, as they are 2 entirely sort of different beasts as far as how people actually approach searching on LinkedIn versus searching on Google. So on LinkedIn, search is quite different, and I'll stick with an example that's a bit closer to the marketing industry of copywriting. If someone's searching for copywriting, say on Google, they might be searching for copywriting services for small business. Whereas on LinkedIn, people are going to search for copywriter. They're not looking for something as specific because their understanding of how LinkedIn works is quite different to their understanding of how they're actually going to search for someone on Google. In Google, they're going to be quite descriptive about how they search. In LinkedIn, they're going to be very specific about how they search because they're typically going to be searching for a job title or just the keyword until itself. So it really is sort of, from a search engine perspective, it's that sort of head term that you're trying to find. The overarching term that describes your service or your product is what you really want to be optimizing for as far as LinkedIn goes. We're going to do a bit of a look at how we actually go about doing keyword research for LinkedIn. What I would sort of call LinkedIn SEO keywords. We'll touch on that a little bit later in the presentation. All right, so we've laid a lot of the groundwork as far as the actual strategy behind what we're actually pursuing for SEO. Everyone's got a pretty good understanding. What we want to get into now is the real meat, or get into the real dirt of the actual optimization. We're not going to use every fancy tool under the sun. We're not going to use anything that's actually going to involve, paid tools or paid subscriptions to things. This is really the stuff that, this is the nuts and bolts. This is the essentials of SEO, and going to give you a couple of very, very, very practical recommendations as to how you actually approach your SEO. Okay, so we're going to use this same search term here, Plum of Sunshine Coast. We're going to go back a few pages. Don't want to pick a page that inadvertently might be, we're quite well optimized for a search term already, just so that you can go through some of the learnings of what we're actually going to cover here. And the idea here is for you to really be able to apply this directly to your own website. Now, the search term you're wanting to look to target, if you're a service-based business, I'm not going to go through a full keyword research process because it can become quite involved. The key, though, is really not to overthink it. If you do need to get an understanding of what sort of search volume looks like, you can sign up for a free Google Ads account. And in there, you just go into the keyword planner and you just want to get the search volume for search terms. And that's how you're going to identify how much search volume there is for a search term. So that's really important. The other way you can do that is you can also check out a tool called Surfer, S-U-R-F-E-R, and you want to install that as a Google Chrome plugin. I'm not going to show you all the ins and outs of it because it's not really that important. What is important? Oh, there we go. Google's talking to me on my mobile as well. So what does really matter as far as that goes is that you do get an understanding of search volume if you're not already sure how many people are actually searching for the term you're trying to target. The other thing that's really important for a service-based business is you must have a location in there. There is no point any of these plumbers targeting the term plumber, because someone could be typing in plumber from the Sunshine Coast. Chances are they're probably located somewhere else in Australia and they're typing in plumber. So there's no point going after the term plumber. You want to go after the term plumber and then the location. No point going after your direct local suburb unless there's search volume in your direct local suburb. So hence why you always want to have a service term and a location term. Typically in that order too is what your primary search term is going to be. Plumber, Sunshine Coast is a great example here. If that was a dentist, it'd be dentist, Sunshine Coast. If that was a dentist in Maroochydore, because they're only going to serve Maroochydore, it'd be dentist Maroochydore, for example. So with that said, let's scroll down here and we'll go with, both of these guys have been to their website before, Connected Plumbing and Gas. So we can see here that the main elements that we're actually going to want to target, or the three most heavily weighted items as far as Google search goes, we'll actually go back so you can see it more easily. The three most heavily weighted elements as far as Google search goes, or that Google looks at when it comes to an individual page on your website, so it doesn't need to be your home page. And in fact, in most cases, the best page for ranking is typically not going to be the home page. It might be the most powerful page on your website, but there's also not that much flexibility because you're limited to whatever your domain name is, which is, in this case, is connectedplumgas.com.au. So often creating a new page to target a search term is ideal. So connectedplumgas.com.au, you can see their page title here. This is the first most heavily weighted and most important thing when it comes to search is the URL. So in this case, connectedplumgas.com.au. The next most heavily weighted thing is the page title, which in this instance is plumber, Budrum, Sunshine Coast, and gas fitter, residential, and the rest of it's cut off because it's a bit too long. Now, if we open up the website, the third most heavily weighted thing that Google looks at is the main heading on the page, which in this case is most likely going to be gas fitting services Sunshine Coast. It could also be looking for a plumber or gas fitter in the Sunshine Coast. And you're going to know which is the main heading because it's the heading that's tagged as a H1. Now, if you really had to check that for yourself, you'd simply right-click on the page, go View Page Source, hit Control or Command if you're on a Mac computer, and go H1. And you simply just type in H1 and you're looking for the main heading on the page, which you can see here is looking for a plumber or gas fitter in the Sunshine Coast. So as far as this website's gone, it does not have the search term we're trying to target, plumber Sunshine Coast, in the URL. So therefore, creating a new page with the term plumber Sunshine Coast in the URL, and it would look like this. If you're following my mouse up in the browser, plumber Sunshine Coast is ideal. If it's not possible to do that, skip this step and simply move on to the next two if it's not possible for you to create a new page in order to do this. But that's exactly how you target it, because now we've got the exact search term we're trying to target in the URL here. Next, what we want to do is we want to adjust the page title to target the search term. In this instance here, we want the search term exactly in the page title. Plumber Budrum Sunshine Coast is not good enough. In this instance, this is targeting plumber Budrum. We would need a separate page targeting Budrum and a separate page targeting an independent page targeting Sunshine Coast on the website. We're not going to target two locations with one page. So here we would have plumber Sunshine Coast as the target, or if we wanted this page to target gas fitting, we would target gas fitter Sunshine Coast, and that would be what the page title starts with. Then you would typically at least have the brand name after that. So in this case, plumber Sunshine Coast, and then connected plum gas is how the page title would read. And then as far as the heading on the page goes, that can either be phrased as a question, looking for a plumber in the Sunshine Coast or in Sunshine Coast, or you can simply have the heading, the main heading on your page, as just the search term you're trying to target, plumber Sunshine Coast. Because at the end of the day, when someone's coming from Google search, you've only got a couple of seconds for them to be convinced that they've actually landed in the right spot. So just having the search term there, plumber Sunshine Coast, they're instantly going to look at that and go, yep, I landed in the right spot. This is exactly what I was looking for. And then they're going to proceed to have a look at what else is on the rest of the page. So that's why it is so important having the main heading on the page containing that search term, not just to satisfy Google, but also to satisfy a user. Because when they get there, they're going to go plumber Sunshine Coast. Yep, that's exactly what I was looking for. So those are the three elements that you want to focus on as far as your search term goes. Now, I want to just jump in quickly and show you how you can actually do that in WordPress. So if you're not on WordPress, I highly recommend moving to WordPress. It's hands down the best as far as SEO goes. And if you're on a platform like Wix or Weebly, strongly recommend moving off that altogether, as you're definitely going to be, there will be questions as to what's holding you back as far as Wix or Weebly goes. For example, whenever we're working with a client, we always use the first month's budget to just convert the entire website over to a WordPress website. Even though it's not necessarily cost efficient from our point of view, we know that it removes any question marks as far as the search, as far as what could be holding it back in SEO. So in WordPress, what you want to do first and foremost is just install a tool called Yoast. So if you just go here into WordPress, you go plugins, add new plugin. Up here, just type in Yoast, Y-O-A-S-T. Just want to install and activate this plugin here. Then jumping across, once you've got Yoast installed on any individual page in the website, what you're going to be able to do is you can see here, this is a page. The page we're on right now, they're optimizing is that cleaning business that you saw before. And then on the Sunshine Coast page, house cleaning Sunshine Coast or cleaning Sunshine Coast. We're just going to scroll down to the section that we see, it says Yoast SEO if you're following my mouse. And then in here, we just simply click. You can see this is showing us, this is the page title. We can see the page title isn't too long yet. And we just want to put in here, house cleaning Sunshine Coast. That's the main term we're trying to target. And then we can even have in here just the brand name made to match in this instance here. So if we were the plumber before, this would say plumber Sunshine Coast. We can stick the bar in there, or we can stick a hyphen in there, and then just simply have connected plum. Gas. Now we can change the URL here. got to be a bit careful doing that, so I wouldn't suggest doing that unless you've got your web developer helping you with that. And meta description doesn't matter as far as SEO goes. It's useful for getting people to click through to your website, so it's great having something like a phone number in there or a question in there. But other than that, not worth paying. It's not actually going to be a factor directly in your SEO. So that's it. That's how you actually optimize within a WordPress website, how you actually optimize the two main things. And sometimes for some people and some businesses, just doing this alone is going to move you up the rankings significantly with your search results. So the other thing you can do if you really want to take this to the next level is you can go and have a look on the very first page of Google for your search term. So say Plumber Sunshine Coast, and this is a very basic way of doing it, but it will yield good results for your business. Is if you go here, pick the top businesses that are on the first page, so not directories, not things like local search or OneFlare. So let's say Aurora Contractors, and then we would also take another two as well. DFYA Plumbing, and we would also probably do it with Wartula Plumbing as well, or Sunshine Coast Plumbers. It doesn't really matter, but three businesses from the top of the first page. So let's say Aurora Contractors, we would grab them, head across to a website that's just going to allow you to do a count of how many words they have on their page. So if we take Aurora Contractors, we copy that, we go to a tool, I just Googled this tool, but it's wordcounter.net, website word count. But you can just Google website word counter, and then in here we're going to put the competitor's website address, click count words, and then in here we can see how many times that we use the word bathroom, coast, plumbing. Now while all this in itself is not that useful, and I wouldn't recommend copying what competitors are doing necessarily as far as this goes, what is useful is taking for those top three competitors on the first page, that are businesses, not directories, taking the word count they have and getting the average of them. So let's say it was all three of them had 2,000, the average word count's going to be 2,000, and we can see here that connected plumb gas, if this was your website, there's not 2,000 words on here, so we would add enough content to at least hit what the websites that are already ranking on the first page of Google that Google clearly likes or loves. We would try and aim for a similar word count. Because what you don't want to be is on the first page, if you're trying to aim for those top three results and the average of those three has say 2,000 words, clearly Google's looking at those and going, these are websites we like, they give great answers to the query the person typed in, and it takes about 2,000 words to answer their query, Plumber Sunshine Coast. So if you type 400 words or 500 words and you've only got 700 words on your page, there's no way they're going to put you in those top few positions, because from their perspective, the data is telling them that you probably haven't answered the question or the query their user has. Or if you type 5,000 words on your page and the top average of the top three only has, say, 2,000, in this instance, you've written way too many words, and therefore you're probably not giving a concise answer to the query that the person has typed in, which at the end of the day, that's exactly what Google's trying to do. So this is a really simple way of just making sure that your word count, which is probably one of the other most important things that you're going to see when it comes to SEO for your website, and something you can really do yourself, make sure you're at least hitting the words. Is the final real recommendation as far as SEO goes, and things you can really impact and do yourself quite safely on your website for your SEO. Okay, so if that was a bit much we were going through there, we are going to cover off on just some much simpler and sort of easier to navigate changes as far as your actual Google My Business goes shortly. We're just going to duck across and have a look at LinkedIn, and we're going to have a look at three things specifically, and we'll do this in pretty quick succession to each other. First, we're going to have a look at keywords, and particularly how you go about finding what keywords you actually want to target on LinkedIn, because as I already mentioned, it is different to Google search. And then we're going to have a look at where to actually use keywords on your LinkedIn profile, cover that very, very briefly. And then we're going to have a look at how to actually rank your LinkedIn profile on Google, which is something pretty tricky, something that even not a lot of SEO people actually even look at or even think to actually do. But when you are targeting easier terms, it can be something that actually just ranks you very, very rapidly, particularly if you're a consultant. So definitely skip right ahead to that one, or make sure you're taking as many notes as you can if you are a consultant or someone who people engage personally with you as far as your actual services go. And then we'll move across straight to the GMBs. So I've removed my face, as you can tell from here, but that's just so that you've got a bit more visibility of the full screen while we go through this. So in terms of finding SEO keywords for you to use in your profile, You really do simply sort of conduct keyword research in the same way that you would for Google, but it is just tweaked in order to use the LinkedIn interface in the way that really LinkedIn functions, as it's not really an algorithm as such in the same way, obviously it is an algorithm, but in the same way that Google is in terms of trying to discover people's intent behind what they're actually searching for or what they mean when they search. So it's pretty much the same that you are trying to determine what do you want your profile to rank for on LinkedIn. Do these search terms get decent search volume, and do they have low competition as well? And do they match the intent of your target audience? So it's really those three questions that you want to consider. And then you want to generate a list of terms that are worth ranking for and that have a reasonable search volume. And then with that list, you want to then sprinkle those keywords into your profile. And first and foremost, going to cover off where you want those things on your profile. You want them in the summary up the top here. You want them in the snippet in terms of the about section here, and the more detailed or the complete bio up the top here. And if you can, you want to work it into the file names of any featured work that you've uploaded. And then you do want to link them into your experience as well. Sort of tie in how previous positions have actually benefited your current skill set or that particular search term that you're really trying to target. And that can often be just a small snippet section you do at the end of your previous experience. Utilize that to tie it back into how that's a benefit to the service you now currently provide, or how that role was a benefit, and that's going to allow you to talk to that search term. And those are really the main spots you want to put it, get your search term into. It's not going to matter necessarily as far as the image goes. That's obviously much more about marketing and actually getting people to click and pay attention to your profile. So with that said, in terms of how we actually go about finding those search terms, so we're going to start with, we'll start right here, and we'll actually go with the term SEO. So you want to type the main term that you really want to target, or sort of that head term. There's no tool at the moment which actually provides search volume data for keywords on LinkedIn. So this is not a hard science, is the caveat I want to say up front. But with a reasonable level of skill, you can make some pretty informed guesses, and certainly far more informed than having done no research at all as to what you're trying to target on LinkedIn. So here's the process that we go through as far as finding keywords on LinkedIn. So search for the shortest and broadest term associated with your product or service. So in this instance, we're going to go with SEO, because obviously SEO is one of the primary services that we provide. And when we go here, we're going to start to see results. These are obviously going to be results that are heavily influenced by your connections or your network. This is not necessarily going to be organic results that are uninfluenced. And then what we want to do is we want to go see full results. Then it's going to bring up a page here. This is going to take us to a page that's going to show results associated with this keyword, including number of results that are there. You can see that at the top here, showing 73,000 results. It's also going to show connections, companies, groups, all sorts of different things here, even learning results as well is what they're trying to push now. And you're going to notice that the top results are likely connections that are already in your network, identified typically by a first, second, or third degree connection is what you're going to see, particularly as far as these people profiles go. So what we want to do is we want to filter for people and also for companies as well. You can add into here as well, into your filters up the top. And what we want to now determine is what profiles or what term is going to yield the highest volume and best results across the board. So in order to do that, we want to click all connections as well, first, second, and third degree connections. We don't just want to see first degree or people you are actually connected with. And that's why you're going to see these results alter as a result of that. Now, what we want to do before moving to the next step is sort of make a note of how many results there are here. You can see there's 2.53 million plus results. So we're actually going to take a note of that. So for the term SEO, we've got 2.53 million results. And then we want to analyze these results. So for the top results that we see in here, we want to see what search terms they're actually including in their profile. And you can see that the actual snippet that appears up the top here is not overly important as far as SEO goes, but it is in the description and in the positions that you're actually going to see in the position titles that you're going to see them using their the key search term, which in this case is SEO. You can even see that bolded here, SEO. It's actually bolded, SEO, SEO in their current position, SEO, SEO. And so what you want to do is then just do an analysis, really. You want to open up the top 5 to 10 of these profiles, open them all up in new tabs, simply go like this. Then you just want to scan through and just really use common sense. What's the commonalities between these profiles? Where are they actually mentioning the term SEO? What other things are they actually talking about on their profiles? And then you're going to be able to build a profile that also utilizes those search terms in the same way that those top ranking profiles are utilizing that same search term. So that's really it. And as I said, this is not a hard and fast science, but this is certainly, there is going to be very little information for you out there about how else to go about this. And look, once you have that search term identified, already mentioned as to where you really want to be including that, but it is really the competition that's going to inform you as to where to do it. So typically utilizing 5 to 10 profiles in order to inform you of how to actually go about optimizing your profile. So the next thing I want to move to is actually ranking your profile within Google. So in order to do that, it's actually the URL that you want to adjust. So you can see up here in my URL, I've got the URL Jason P. Schultz. However, it is very, very possible for some search terms to actually rank your profile simply by altering this URL. And the way that that works, rank your profile in Google, simply altering this URL. Say, for example, I wanted to target the term Noosa SEO expert. It's not going to be an overly competitive term. I sort of know that off the top of my head. It's a much smaller location. SEO expert's nowhere near as competitive as SEO. We would possibly be able to rank our LinkedIn or this LinkedIn profile, my one here, just by adjusting that URL to Noosa SEO expert. So the key part is how to actually go about that. So what we want to do is when you're on your profile page here and you're logged in, up the top here, just go edit public profile and URL. It's going to take you to this page here. From there, you simply just personalize the URL, Noosa SEO expert, or more particularly, we'd probably write SEO expert Noosa. That's it. So if you are focused on just one particular niche, it is of every advantage to actually put your main search term you're trying to target, provided it's not overly competitive. Particularly if you're able to target a small location, it's of a major advantage to be able to actually put this in your URL. Not only is that going to actually boost any signals going back to your website from website links within your profile, like this one here, because that's actually going to be saying to Google that LinkedIn is saying that this person is an SEO expert in Noosa. Therefore, the website they link to, it's a signal that this business or this website that they've linked to in their profile is also an SEO expert in Noosa. But this in and of itself can potentially rank within Google. I've seen this in even some of the more competitive spaces as well, where people actually rank their own profile within Google, but it's just a very little known trick as far as how you can actually go about ranking your profile within Google. So hopefully that's a really helpful tip. I'm going to jump straight into Google My Business Optimization. Now this can be absolute gold mine for any business. As mentioned before, it's not as competitive. There's not as big a brands up against you, not up against massive marketing budgets of large companies, typically when it comes to Google My Business. All right, so pay attention as we run through this. So what you need to do is you need to log into the back end of your Google My Business, and you can see we're logged in here. You can see the badge at the top here, business.google.com, and log right in. Now, the things that I'm going to point out here for you to alter. The very first thing is making sure you have your category correct. Now, when it comes to the category, this is going to be the most influential thing. Your primary category is the one you actually want to rank for. How do you know what category to choose? Type the search term in you're trying to rank for in Google and see what the top 3 people who are already ranking for, what primary category are they in. Pick the same category as that. In terms of secondary category, you want to pick things that you also provide the services for. And then you want to type them into here. You don't want to just pick things that aren't actually related to what you're doing. It might be nice to rank for, but they're not really, they're very loosely related to the services you do. You actually want to provide things that are the service you do. So if someone typed in advertising agency, yes, it's quite possible they would use 5tails, for example, or web designer, they would use, they could use 5tails as a web designer, for example. So with that said, but make sure you've got your primary category correct. That's the very first thing and most important thing when it comes to Google My Business. Second one here is 5tails is the actual name itself. You're not really going to be able to alter this. Google has really cracked down on what this needs to be, and it does really need to be your brand name. If your brand name and the actual registered name of your business happens to include your location or a search term, that's okay, but otherwise, you're just going to have to keep that strictly to just your brand name. So in this instance, just 5tails. Then here, you're going to want to pick your service area. Now, if you don't actually deliver services to anyone, you're actually going to want to, so if you don't deliver services to people at their address, but that's currently showing on Google, you are quite at risk really of your Google My Business being banned or removed or suspended, I should say, from Google. So what you want to do is just come into the address here, as I've just clicked on, delete everything out of here, and then just indicate that it's not a business with an address. And then it's going to appear here as just a service area only business, meaning you only serve people at their location, which in Sydney, we don't actually want people coming to the temporary offices there. We want that. We want to serve them at their premises, hence why there's no location in here, for example. Service area, so in this one here, you want to pick the actual area that you service. You don't want to pick all of Australia if you don't service all of Australia, for example. Not going to cover off on all these things here. We don't use short names. For whatever reason, this is not a very well-developed tool on Google's behalf. You can certainly read about short names, but highly recommend leaving this out altogether. Again, it's just not a great feature rollout as far as Google My Business goes, and seems to have triggered a lot of the suspensions that we've seen with Google My Business profiles goes. You always want to link to the most relevant page on your website. You can add services, that's great, but it's not necessarily going to make a big difference as far as SEO goes. Same with highlights. The next most important thing, so the first one was categories, second one was making sure you got your service area right. Third thing is the description. You want to make sure you've got to use as much of the description as you possibly can. Use the main search term within the first paragraph that you're writing there, and then actually talk about your services. That's really, really important. Make sure you mention the locations you serve within here, not in a way that reads spammy, but in a way that someone could actually read that. Easiest way to describe this is a blank paper test. If someone read this on a blank paper without the context of the fact they were on Google, if you wrote this out, would someone actually understand what your service is about? Well, if they can, based on the fact it was written on a blank piece of paper, then it's going to probably satisfy both users and Google search, because it's going to provide enough context as to how someone might have searched for it. Then the last thing you want to do is photos. I'm not going to cover off on everything to do with photos. What I am going to give you is a link to actually be able to download this spreadsheet here, which is our complete guide to photos. What types of photos to take, and then putting those photos on your profile. So you can see here this covers a very wide range of businesses. You can see some tips here for the Google My Business photo gallery, what to do, what not to do, and also content and relevance. So a bit of a takeaway for you. Hopefully you find that really helpful, but photos can make a huge difference to ranking your Google My Business profile. The very last thing is making sure you have an efficient way of actually getting reviews. If you're not getting reviews on your Google My Business profile, chances are it's probably not going to rank. It doesn't have a huge impact as far as ranking goes. Plenty of businesses rank without any reviews, but it has a big difference as far as whether someone's actually going to utilize your services when they see you on Google My Business versus a competitor. If one of your competitors has 15 reviews, you've got one, chances of you getting selected, very minimal unless they're at capacity and they've got no choice but to use you. They're going to be reluctant to use your services because in the absence of any other information, they're going to rely on that third-party information. So those are some really quick-fire ways of how to actually optimize your Google My Business profile. So this is the link where you're actually going to be able to head to in order to download those Google My Business photos and best practices. Just go to https://5tails-gmb-photos. If you just head to that link there, you'll be able to grab a copy, save a copy for yourself, or download it in Excel, or just we'll keep that link live so that you'll be able to access that. So this brings us to the very last thing we wanted to cover, which is finding topics to blog about that are actually going to help your SEO. So I know we're running very short on time here, but what we're going to do is we're just going to run through just this very brief example. You can take a screenshot of this, download this as an image, but this is really using examples of accounting software, for example. But if you typed into Google, say, what is accounting software? So what you want to do here is you want to turn your target keyword into a question. So accounting software, if that's the search term we're trying to target, what is accounting software? So we just typed in what is, you can type in how is, who is, any questions like that, or how to do, and then we're going to type that into a question. Then you want to look for this section here, scroll down and look for the people also ask. That's always going to be there. Now that's the second step. So check this section here, and then within that, you're going to find topics you can blog about. Find topics for new blog posts so for example here, what are the uses of accounting software? What are the types of accounting software? What is accounting software examples? Pretty poor English, but what is the most commonly used accounting software? These are all great topics to blog about if you were trying to rank for the term accounting software. And then you can get more ideas just by simply clicking the down arrow on any of these related ones here. What you want to do then is write your blog post and include these search terms in the URL of the blog post. Make sure that's the title of the blog post, and then link back to the page that you're actually trying to rank for the term accounting software. Really important to link back to the page that you're trying to rank for. Otherwise, it's a blog post sitting in isolation on your website. It's going to help, but nowhere near as much as if you actually link internally to the page you're trying to rank, to the accounting software page. So that's it. That's exactly how you go about actually picking topics for your blog post that are going to help you rank for SEO. and that is hands down probably the best time investment you can make right now if your business is quiet, is writing blog posts, and writing blog posts that are actually going to be of benefit in an evergreen way to the search terms you're trying to rank for, so that when demand returns, your inquiries naturally start returning because you're ranked really highly on Google already. You're not having to search for demand, you're present when people are looking for your services, which is on Google. And our absolute last rapid fire tip for you is sharing blog posts on LinkedIn without killing your organic reach. Let's say you've written that blog post, you've linked back to the page you're trying to rank for accounting software, and now you want to share it on LinkedIn. Well, as it happens, as soon as you go to LinkedIn, if you create a post and you actually try and share a URL on your post that takes people outside of LinkedIn, immediately LinkedIn is going to kill the organic reach of that post because it wants to keep people on the platform, not click on a link and leave and go elsewhere. Hence why a video that you post natively within LinkedIn, rather than directing someone elsewhere to a blog post that has a video on it, that very same video, where you share it natively within LinkedIn, it's going to have a massively different impact versus sending someone away from the platform. Very much like Facebook and all social platforms, they don't want to send people away. They want to keep people on their platform. So what you need to do is do something called the write, post, edit method. So you write the post you're looking to do, you post it without the link, and then in the very first comment, in the post itself, you then edit it after you've posted it, and then add in the link to the blog post. That's actually a bit of a tripwire still at the moment for LinkedIn's algorithm for how it's actually pushing out that content, and you're still going to get that the same organic reach you would normally get, but now you're actually going to be able to put the link into it. So that's it. You just write the post as you would, do it without the link that you want to link to your blog post, then post it, then edit the content, edit the post, and put that link back in again. And that's how you're going to really be able to get around sharing your blog post on LinkedIn without actually killing the reach of it. So that really brings us to the end of the presentation. If you do want to keep in touch with us, you want to keep in touch with some of the content we do have a newsletter. So that's that second sign up link you can see there, fivetails.com.au/sign me up. We've got, I think, just over 60,000 businesses or people signed up across Australia and New Zealand. So you're joining a pretty extensive list of other businesses who benefit from the tips. This is not some, sales pitch we send out each week. These really are just practical tips like what you've received today, which are very sort of pragmatic and things you can implement within your business that are going to help, not just SEO, we don't always cover that, but a whole suite of marketing tactics. And the other way is just follow us on Facebook as well. We often share some of those same tips, same tactics, and you can also hear what us and the rest of the great team at Five Tails are up to. Thank you very much. Again, thanks to Luke at Marketing Broker for having me here, and I hope everyone stays safe and everyone uses their time very, very wisely. We do have a lot of time at the moment, obviously, or more time than they used to have, but the absolute most important thing you can do as far as marketing goes is spend that time wisely into something that's going to pay off once this is all over, or at least once the consumer demand is back somewhat from where it is at the moment. Thanks very much.